I can email it to them afterwards. So I'm going to do a little screen share here. All right. Can everyone see that?
I can
today at profileplan.com.
That's profile.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, if you guys can just keep yourselves muted, and then if you have a question, save it for the end. We will leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. We just want to try to keep this on track with timing. So just save them for the end, or feel free to put them in the chat below if you don't want to forget your question, and then we'll make sure to answer it at the end as well. So first of all, thanks for joining, guys. My name is Nicole Broder. I am one of your hosts tonight. Christine Morgan is my go-to real estate attorney, and Steve Mix is my go-to lender. And we are all going to be hosting this together. We're going to start off with a little bit of introduction on all of us. We will then have Steve kick us off and talk about the mortgage process, and then all the details of the nitty-gritty part about that. Then I will come in, talk about all the fun stuff of searching for the home, finding the home, and what to do once you find the home. And then Christine Morgan will come in afterwards and go over all of the legal process of everything from purchase and sales to everything in between, getting to closing, and then we'll do the Q&A at the end. So let's get this party started. All right, that's me. I'm Nicole Broder. I am a licensed realtor in the state of Mass and New Hampshire. I work for Barrett Sotheby's International Realty. We are a pretty well-known local company in the towns of, Acton, Westford, Littleton, Lincoln, Lexington. Sotheby's is an international company, so we are worldwide. We have franchises all around the world. So if you are looking to relocate out of state or anyone you know, we have a huge referral network that we can direct you anywhere. So that's my contact info if you don't already have it. Up next, we have the fabulous Steve Mix. Steve, you want to say hi to everyone?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the intro. I'm Steve Mix with Fairway Independent Mortgage. My office is in Belmont, Massachusetts. I've been in the industry for 17 years, having fun, seeing a little bit of everything, ups and downs and sideways, and rates have been falling since I started, so they won't let me retire anytime soon. Rates are super low. We won't talk much about that tonight, but just wanted to give a quick introduction, and thanks, Nicole, for having me on board.
Thank you, Brian. All right, cool. And then we have the fabulous Christine Morgan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Morgan. I am an attorney in Acton. My practice is predominantly real estate law, which I've been doing for almost 30 years now. I've been working with Steve and Nicole for quite some time, and I think we've put together a really good team that's going to be able to help you and guide you through your first-time home buying experience.
All right, so we are going to have Steve kick us off.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to try and keep this high level, just to kind of go through some major checkpoints, so to speak. And then, if there's specific items that people have questions about, we can handle that in the questions and answers towards the end. So first, if we're looking to get qualified for a mortgage, the first kind of item that we're going to be looking at for people is credit. What's your credit score? What's your what do you have for debt? And what do you have student loans? Do you have car payments? Do you have credit cards? And Nicole is always going to try and get you. If you talk to Nicole first, she's going to send you to me because we want to make sure you're A, qualified, but B, also prepared. And sometimes if you do have credit issues, they may take 2 or 3 months to clear up at least. Sometimes we can get them done in a matter of a couple of days. It just really depends on what the issues are. The last checkpoint I have down there, we have a department in our company that just deals with credit issues. So if I pull up your report and there's issues and there's some steps that we need to take, I'm going to put you in touch with them, and they're going to literally walk you through it. That's really all they do. They're going to tell you the best steps, what's going to get you the quickest improvement. And so you're not wasting time, but also you can start wasting money. And when I say wasting, if you put your money towards the wrong items, you could actually cause your score to go down, which would kind of defeat the purpose of what we want. So I typically steer people towards the experts if we need them in that scenario. Nicole, you want to go to the next slide for me? Thank you. So what are you going to need to complete a mortgage application? These are, again, just highlights, high level. This is really if you're a W-2 employee. If you're a self-employed borrower, it's going to be a little more complicated than this, but we can certainly address that later if people have a certain scenario that we want to talk about. For income and asset documentation, you're gonna need documents that I'll go through in a little while. You're going to need to provide a 2-year housing and employment history. We're going to try and decide which is going to be the best product for what you're trying to do, what property type you're trying to buy, what price range you're in, what area, what do you qualify for. There's a whole bunch of factors that are going to help us decide that. And then how much do you have available for a down payment? That's going to also contribute to what you're going to qualify for. And then we're going to provide you with numbers so that you know what to expect. The money that you need to bring to closing is not going to be just a down payment. It's also going to be closing costs, attorney's fees, that kind of thing. And then briefly, I'm just going to talk about this is a question I get a lot of: what's a pre-approval versus what's a pre-qualification? A pre-approval is we are going to take an application, we are going to send it to underwriting. You're officially kind of a live loan without a property. And we don't often do that for a variety of reasons. The biggest reason we don't often do that is you kind of lose flexibility. That only lasts for so long. We have about a 60-day window once we do that. And then if that expires, then we basically have to kind of start from scratch. Versus a pre-qualification, I basically do all the things that an underwriter would do. That is going to last for 90 days. And then if it comes to time to renewing it, all we really need to do at that point is re-pull credit. If there is something very particular or very unique about your income or a property type or anything that's kind of outside the box, then that's when I would lean towards a pre-approval. So just wanted to kind of clarify that. Nicole, next page, please. All right, so I'm just going to go through some down payment options. Again, kind of high level here. If you are a veteran and you've served the country, thanks for that. And then you have that earns you the right to have a zero down loan. So that's a great option if available. Obviously not available to everybody. If you're a first-time home buyer, we have a 3% program that is has great rates and also great mortgage insurance rates as well. It kind of tries to help a first-time home buyer get started. FHA is an option that we will use typically on a multifamily. If you don't have 20% down, a 3.5% option through FHA is a good choice. There may be some other reasons why we would use that. It just depends on your credit profile and some other factors. 5% down conventional is kind of the next step if you're not a first-time home buyer, or we don't want to use one of the other programs. And then 20% down is you're gonna not have mortgage insurance, and that's ideal if you can get there. Quite often, first-time home buyers might not have that. It doesn't mean you shouldn't get into a property. Can we get the next slide, Nicole? All right, and just go through a kind of high level of products and what factors are in there. So typically you'll hear about a 30-year fixed. There's also a 15, there's a 10. There's adjustable rate mortgages, which we aren't really using much right now because of the 30-year being so low. If you're going to be in a property on a short-term basis and the adjustable rate spread is big compared to a fixed, which isn't the case right now, that's when we would consider that. I mentioned VA before. You have to have served in the military to be eligible for that. There is FHA, which we'll use depending on the scenario. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, you'll hear those terms. Those are basically the conventional, most standard loans that we use. And then a portfolio loan is if you have a unique feature either with your income or with the property type or something that's going to kind of put you outside of the Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac guidelines or any of the other programs. Then we'll go to what we call a portfolio investor, and they'll kind of have some expanded guidelines to get the loan done if need be. Thanks, Nicole.
Ready?
Yep. All right, and I'm just going to go over documents. The typical scenario of you're a W-2 employee. We're going to look for 30 days of pay stubs, 2 years of W-2s or a 1099 if you're self-employed, 2 years of tax returns, 2 months of bank statements. The bank statements we're going to look at to see if you have enough money for the down payment that you're thinking about, and we'll also make sure that you have enough to cover closing costs as well. And we're going to get photo IDs. We're required to do that for a variety of reasons. We have to identify who is our customer, and I think that's it for my slides, Nicole.
That is it.
Yeah, there we go.
Quick question for you, because I get this a
Yeah.
lot from my clients, especially my first-time home buyers, is that when they are looking to start looking for homes, is they typically come to me first. And as we know, I like to then direct them to you first for a number of reasons, which we'll go over. But number one thing is I think they are scared about their credit getting pulled too many times or too early. So can you just maybe clarify that for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So credit is a very finicky beast. There are a lot of factors that go into your credit. How many trade lines do you have? How long have you had them for? Have you ever had a late payment? Have you been bankrupt? All those things. One other thing that will impact your score, kind of on a short-term basis, is how many inquiries there have been in the recent past. And when we say recent past, they're looking at a 90-day history. So in the last 90 days, if you call me and ask for a mortgage or a pre-qualification, we're going to pull your credit once. We're not going to touch that again unless we need to, unless the report expires, which is 90 days, and then we would pull it again at your request. We don't automatically do it. We sometimes people will start looking and for whatever reason we'll pick it back up again 6 months later, just depending on seasonality and whatever else is going on. But if you what will cause your score to go down is if you have me pull it, you have a car loan pull it, you have a credit card or any other sorts of trade lines. If you have multiple pulls in a short time frame, that is what could cause your score to go down. And that impact depends on how big of a credit profile you have. If you have 1 or 2 trade lines and you're just getting started with credit, that impact could be greater than if you have 20 trade lines and it might not have any impact at all. So when I look at credit with customers, we'll always kind of go through that scenario of, hey, this is what we see on your trade lines, and how to keep your scores healthy. We give you a list of do's and don'ts.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So then the fun stuff begins. So this is where I come in as your realtor. And just to kind of recap that reason why I always send my clients to get pre-approved first with Steve is to protect both of us. So as a realtor, as a buyer's agent, I work for you for free. I only get paid by the sellers of the property. So I will be showing you potentially a lot of properties. Sorry, I like to say not going to be that many, but I've shown people properties for up to several months to a year, and that whole time frame, I'm working for free. So on your end, you want to make sure is that you have that pre-approval up front to make sure that you're not wasting your own time looking at houses, getting excited about them if you're not going to be able to jump on a property, because we'll go over with how the market is right now. But you need to have that pre-qualification letter, the pre-approval letter, to be able to put in an offer. And if you don't have that and you find the perfect house, you could lose out on it because things just move so fast right now. So protect you, and to protect me, make sure we're both on the same page. And then really it's full steam ahead once you get that letter. All right, so let's get started with why should you start working with a buyer's agent early on? All right, and I get a lot of this from people is people will not understand really the importance of my role as a buyer's agent. I also sell properties, but when it comes to working with buyers, why it's good to work with me early is, number one is I understand the market. I'm sure you guys don't spend hours a day looking at properties in every town and all the surrounding towns and getting familiar with what's out there, what they do sell, what they're listed for, what they've sold for, talking to other local realtors, knowing what's coming on the market. So it's really my full-time job to really understand the market. So to get in early with me is going to give you the upper hand because you're going to have my wealth of knowledge there. Then when it comes time to helping you narrow down your search and save you time, really important here, because you're going to go in and you're going to be like, oh, I went through Zillow or wherever you're looking, and you're going to say, I saw this beautiful kitchen and the house looks amazing from the outside. I have to see it. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about what's really important in your home search. Is it a beautiful kitchen and updated bathrooms, or is it, do you want to have a minimum of 1,200 square feet? Do you want to have a half-acre lot? Do you want to be in a neighborhood versus a busy street? So these are all things that me as a trained agent will make you aware that's really probably more important than nice granite countertops. So just a couple things that I like to help you be aware of up front and narrow down your search so that we're not looking at hundreds of properties, getting frustrated to find the perfect one. And again, as a buyer's agent, I'm free to work with for you. So why not start working with me early? Get my expertise as early as you can in the process. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but I've heard from a few people that they think going to the listing agent is going to be better because they're going to get a better deal. I can assure you that that is not the case because they have only their seller's interest in mind. And you really don't want to be doing a dual agency situation. So now dual agency is when one agent will represent both the buyer and the seller, but they can't really represent them both. So they might be writing an offer to their seller, but they will always have the seller's best interest. So if you think you can go right to the listing agent and get the best deal on the house, it's not going to happen. So you're better off having someone who's fully representing you every step of the way. And then the same thing goes for the seller. And then when it comes time to actually seeing houses in person, having me be there with you is definitely going to help you out because I'm going to notice things with my trained eyes that you may not. So when you're going to go in and you'll see all these, nice upgrades that people have done, I'll notice things like foundation cracks or, windows maybe need to be replaced or bigger ticket items that will cost you a lot more money up front that you probably should be aware of that as a first-time home buyer, you probably won't notice. Things like, lack of storage as your family maybe grows in this house. So just things like that, resale value. So it's really good to make sure that I come with you to see these properties. And then also I do work for, again, Barrett Sotheby's. We have quite a large network. We have, just about 200 agents in all of our offices across, the Massachusetts area. And then again, working with the Sotheby's International Realty, we have agents all over the place. And we like to, especially in the Barrett Sotheby's office, let each other know about properties before they come on the market. So you have the upper hand of me knowing all of the local realtors and hopefully finding out the information on these houses before they even hit market. Can't say that I can get you in, but I can certainly try. All right. And then when it comes time to finding the house, all right, so you found the one, all right, the diamond in the rough, the unicorn of houses. Now what? So this is where my job comes in to help you understand how much you should offer. Again, knowing the market and knowing, what other houses have sold for recently, what you can probably expect. And I can help you run like a comparative market analysis, and I can even send that to you, make it very visual, and you can compare houses. You can give you a good range of what the house should be worth. So that's really where my job comes in, to guide you through, the offer process, rather than just being like, oh, the house is listed at $599. I'm going to put in 601, like, whatever that show, what is that game show? That's Price is Right. All right. Just offer $1 over. No. So we're going to help you understand where the market is and offer the right price. So I'm also going to help you understand what other things can you do to make an offer more appealing to a seller. So things like contingencies are very appealing. Things like closing time frame are very appealing to someone who may want to stay in a house a little bit longer while they find their next house. They may not want to deal with a home inspection. They may, just lots of little things like that me talking to the listing agent can find out, hopefully behind the scenes, and write up in the offer to make it more appealing to a seller. Then I'm going to help you understand what is in the offer packet. Now, I like to pride myself on being, very tech savvy. So I like to do all my paperwork through the computer, make it very easy for my clients. Everything's electronic signatures. The only thing that needs to ever be signed in person is the closing documents when it comes time to, meeting with Christine on closing day. So everything from the offers to purchase and sales to you name it, it's all electronic. You can do it from your phone, driving in a car, from work, wherever you need to be. I just try to make that really easy for my clients. And we'll go over what the offer letter looks like next. And then really, what do you do when you find out if you get the home? It's usually about in this market, it can be anywhere from a 24-hour to 3 to 5 day time frame of once you write that offer, when you can find out if you got it or not. With this market, guys, I will be upfront and say that this market is very competitive right now. So getting in early with your realtor is gonna give you that upper hand to really understand, what you should be offering, how much you should be putting down. I think most houses now are flying off the shelf, way over asking, and that can be intimidating. So working with a professional is going to definitely make you feel more comfortable going into those situations. So this is an example of what an offer form will look like. I like to show this to my clients early so they get familiar with it, because when it comes time to putting that offer on the house, you don't want to be like reading every single detail at that point and being like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is illegal paperwork. So things to be aware of in this form here. So obviously we'll just put down your information, the seller's information, the fact that I will be representing you as your buyer's agent, or hopefully. And then from there, the important things that you want to be aware of, because this is a legal binding document. So purchase price, how much are you going to offer on the house? Initially is $1,000 deposit that is due if your offer is accepted, and that is due usually immediately. I always tell people, like, within a 24-hour time frame, that deposit needs to be given to the listing agent's office. And then you'll see that second line down, that's right here. It says the second escrow deposit is due after purchase and sales agreement is signed, which Christine will go over what entails that. The duration of offer. So we're going to say this offer is valid until whatever time on whatever day. Usually in this market, the listing agent will give us a time frame. What did I just do? Will give us a time frame of when they want the offers due by. So say we see a house on Friday, we write the offer on Saturday. All offers will probably be due until Monday or Tuesday. So in this market, we will write in that line, like, you'll have until 9 p.m. on Tuesday to accept our offer or not. In the next line, we have the purchase and sales agreement. This date is, again, important because this is the date that you will be signing your purchase and sales agreement. It has to be signed by this date, or this offer is then no longer valid. So these are definitely things to be aware of. And as your realtor, I will definitely keep you on track with that. The next line is closing another very important date, because this is the only date you actually have to be present for. So if you are working, and these typically take place during the weekdays and during work hours. So you need to be aware that if you have work, you need to be able to get it off on this day. So make sure you are telling me up front if you can get work off that day or not. And then, why do I keep switching that? What happened? Sorry guys, technical difficulties. Okay, and then things at the end, contingencies. So what date you will have your mortgage locked in by. If you're going to do a home inspection, what date you will do that by. Other inspections like a possible pest or mold or something like that kind of inspection, we'll put all those dates in there as well. And then there's also an additional term section. For example, if you decide that you are either putting in an escalation clause, saying something along the lines of, I'm willing to pay up to X amount of dollars with proof of another offer. We will have that as an additional document in here, but we'll put that in the additional terms. Or for example, I want the washer and dryer to be included in the sale. So things like that, that you can put in the additional terms as well. All right. If your offer is accepted, yay, we all celebrate, it's a happy day. So at that point, now what? Okay, the first thing is the escrow deposit is due, just like I stated before. That is, again, initial $1,000 check that is usually hand delivered to the listing agent's office. Once in a while, we have a couple agencies out there that would allow it be an electronic deposit, but on average, that is a check that you will have to mail or hand in. From there, if applicable, we will schedule a home inspection that is usually done within the first, I would say, week after the offer is accepted. More recently, it's been quicker and quicker. It's been like within the first 3 to 5 days, because if something pops up, they want to get it back on market immediately. So I usually say within a week that is done. And then you want to let your lender know pretty quickly after, because if the offer is accepted, they need to get started on all the paperwork to get your loan secured. So those things I would definitely say are probably first. And then we have the home inspection. Now this can definitely be one of those things that can be scary for a first-time home buyer. I like to think of it as more of an informative session than anything else. And I tend to work with home inspectors that make it just that. They will walk through the whole entire house, exterior, interior, and they will tell you what needs to be done, what potentially could be done, and just things maybe to be aware of for maintenance purposes moving forward. This, again, can be scary, but you want to think of it more as like, I'm putting a lot of money into this house. I need to be aware of what's going into it. All houses need maintenance, and all homes usually have something that needs to be worked on. I've even seen new construction homes that need stuff worked on. So this is not something to be scared about. This is something to be excited about and getting good information. What is acceptable to negotiate post-inspection? So I have a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm going to offer so much more. And then after inspection, I can just nickel and dime them and talk down to the $20,000. Like in this market, it's a seller's market. It doesn't usually work that way. So what is acceptable to negotiate post-inspection would be usually something along the lines of major things. So things that could cause potential risk to the home. So if there is signs of any mold, if there is any signs of water damage, if there has been, maybe something like a broken window or, things that are definitely more of a major concern. If there's radon tests done and then there's radon in the home, you can negotiate having a radon system installed to make that more regular. So those things are more acceptable rather than just like, oh, this cabinet's loose, like it needs to be fixed. They're gonna be like, okay, no, you can fix it yourself. Once in a while, you can get a seller that might be willing to do little things like that. But for the most part, again, in this market, people are just gonna be like, you're offering whatever money you are, and you're getting the house in the condition it's in. And biggest thing to remember, guys, is don't take it personal. When you're going through this process, it can be very emotional. Buying your first house can be very stressful. It's very emotional, and try not to take it personal, especially when it comes time to negotiations, you got to try to remove that emotional level to it and just really think of it as a business transaction, because that's how the seller is probably looking at it. All right, and then the purchase and sales agreement, it is a binding contract between a buyer and a seller that outlines the details of a home sale transaction. So that'll be something that would take place after the home inspection is done and negotiated, if you're able to do so. And again, that's usually within about a week to 10 days post-offer acceptance. Both attorneys will then at this point make edits to make it agreeable for both sides. And then once it's signed, that second escrow deposit is due. I'm gonna let Christine really talk a little more in detail about what that entails, but just a quick outline on that there. All right, and then after purchase and sales, really at this point as your realtor, my job is mostly done. I'm still going to be in contact with you the whole time. I'm still going to babysit at all the parties, make sure they're staying on track with everything. But at this point, you're really going to work closely with your lender to get that mortgage wrapped up. The attorney, Christine, she's going to do her thing. I'll let her talk about that. The appraisal is done, which is the bank will send out an appraiser to really tell you what the value of that home is in the current market. Now, this is really important, especially if you're getting a mortgage, because the home has to appraise at least your offer price, or else there needs to be some sort of renegotiations afterwards, because the bank will only allow you to get your mortgage unless you're putting like 20% down or a crazy amount down. Usually, if you're putting down less than 20%, they'll make that appraisal just to really protect your interest and their own as well. And then you're going to set up the utilities in your name, get homeowners insurance, prepare to move. And then usually the day before or the morning of, we'll do a final walk through the property to make sure it is in at least broom swept condition, and to make sure that there's nothing left of the property. And then the fun stuff of closing day. So again, we'll leave questions at the end, but I'm going to let Christine do her thing, so we're not running over too much time. Christine Morgan, we have done a lot of transactions together. Love working with her, guys. And I can't stress enough that the team that we have here between me, myself, and Steve, we're pretty awesome. I don't like to toot my own horn, but just together we are awesome, because it's not too often that you can find people who work seamlessly together, who will be available to answer our phone calls and emails 24/7. And in this market, it is very rare to find people who will get back to you as quickly as these guys do. And so I can't preach enough that really working with people who know each other and can trust each other is definitely huge. So without further ado, here's Christine.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start. I had an offer slide as well, Nicole, if you could just flip over to that.
Yes, sir.
And Nicole went through pretty much everything. The only things that I might add to that is that material terms. So that offer is going to basically work as a framework for the purchase going forward. So that has the material terms that Nicole mentioned, you know, purchase price, dates, contingencies, and so forth. If there's anything else that's important to you, it needs to go into this offer, because if it's not in the offer, then it's not going to be able to go into the purchase and sale agreement. Okay, so like she said, if there's a washer and dryer that you want to include, if there's, you know, a workbench, pretty much anything that's attached to the property is going to convey with the property, but anything that's not attached, that's considered a personal property item and would need to be noted in order to be included. So super important to get it in writing. In terms of the inspection contingency, you know, Nicole talked about getting the home inspector in there to do a home inspection. And, you know, are you going to do Steve could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but some loans need pest inspections. You're going to maybe do a radon inspection. So those are all other things to think about. One other really important piece of it is to take some time and go to the town hall and look at the property jacket for the property you're buying. You want to see if there's maybe any outstanding building permits or anything else that's unique to this property. The mortgage contingency, when filling that out in the offer, you want to talk to Steve and make sure that the date that you put in there is realistic. Appraisers are really backed up these days, so you don't want to, you know, put yourself in a corner because something you don't have any control over. Next slide, Nicole, please. So purchase and sale agreement. This is basically a extrapolation of the offer. It's going to have way more terms. It's going to be more concise. It's going to include just more detail than the offer has. You're going to have your inclusions, exclusions, your parties, your price, closing date. The purchase and sale agreement is basically meant for you to have a contract with the seller wherein the seller is going to deliver the property on the day of closing with clear title and in the same condition it's in on the day you sign the purchase and sale agreement. Your responsibility is to get the financing and be ready to purchase on the day of closing, okay? The draft purchase and sale agreement is basically 4 pages long, but once the attorneys get done with it, it's 12, 14, sometimes 20 pages. So it just really depends on what attorney you're working with and how detailed they want to be. My rider is probably about another 4 or 5 pages. And what I like to do there is just get into the title issues and make it very clear what we're looking for. I like to explain what broom clean is in detail because one person's perception of broom clean may not be another's. If there's a septic system, you want to make sure that there's some Title V language in there that the seller is going to deliver the property with Title V. If there's any repairs that come up as a result of the inspection, you're going to want to make sure that the repair items are maybe not in the purchase and sale agreement, but a side agreement to make sure that gets done. And the reason I say that is because the lenders don't really want to look at repair items, okay? Because if they do, then they're going to want to make sure they're done. They're going to want to send the appraiser back out there. And that just is not a nice thing to deal with. We've had a lot of changes since COVID hit. We want to make sure that if something is beyond your control because of COVID, neither side is going to be penalized. So we'll put some language in about that. There's TRID regulations we have to deal with. And basically, so what will happen in the beginning as part of your process, Steve will give you a loan estimate, and that's going to give you your estimated closing costs. And then we get to the closing date and the bank will be sending you your closing disclosure a few days prior to closing. And those closing costs need to be within a certain tolerance level of the original loan estimate. So that's all set forth in the TRID regulation paragraph I put, saying that if the bank needs more time to redisclose or become compliant with TRID, then we'll have that opportunity to do that. Very, very rarely does it happen, but we'd like to have the language in there just in case. We also like to have the seller make some certain representations about the property, things that you might not be aware of. Is the property in a flood zone? Has the seller filed bankruptcy? There's a litany of items that I like to put in there just to get everything out there and make the seller make that affirmative representation so you'll know. Next slide, Nicole. Okay, so as we prepare for closing, I am going to be getting a title search done. I'm going to be looking at the taxes, making sure those are all paid up to date, and getting a plot plan. While I'm doing all of that, you're going to be working with Steve and getting everything ready so that you have your commitment letter on the financing contingency date. That date is super duper critical because if you don't have that commitment letter and you're not able to close on the day of closing, you potentially could lose your deposit. So the three of us work very closely together. We make sure that you have that letter, and if you don't, then we'll work with you and the sellers to get that extended, okay? Appraisals, as Nicole said, that's critical. We need to have that. We can't have that commitment letter be subject to an appraisal. We need a clean commitment letter on the day of financing so that we know that we're not going to have any trouble going forward. And again, the appraisals are backed up, the processors are backed up. It's not unusual to extend that date, but it is critical to extend it if need be. If there's any repair items, you're going to want to be able to check in with the seller, see if they can send you the repair invoices for the work that was done so that you can look at that and potentially go back into the property with Nicole to make sure that everything's done to your liking so that it's not done at the final walkthrough. And then if something's amiss, there's no time to remedy it. We will also be working with the seller. If they have any liens on the property, then we'll be getting payoff statements. We will coordinate with Steve's office to get the loan package and go over with you a day or two before closing exactly how much money you need to have for the closing and in what form. So once that is all done, then we will set a time on the closing day. Next slide, Nicole, please. So we will set the time for closing. We'll give you the number and you'll have your walkthrough with Nicole. Now, sometimes things come up. Sometimes there's title problems that we just can't clear, and that happens. In the purchase and sale agreement, there is an automatic 30-day extension that gives the sellers 30 days more to fix the problem. But what's going to happen if your rate's going to expire? So we need to kind of get creative sometimes. And there's ways around it. We can either extend, or we can talk about, getting you into the property under a use and occupancy agreement. There's a number of different ways to make it work, but understand that you're not going to be able to actually purchase the property until the title is clear. If something comes up as a result of the walkthrough, it's dirty, things are still there. Again, we can work with the seller and, either do a credit or give them some more time. Each situation is different, so you just need to address each situation as it comes up. Once you sit down with me, it's seamless. We go through all of the documents, you sign everything. At that point, we will record the documents with the Registry of Deeds, and as soon as that happens, then you'll get the keys. And I think that's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So obviously we just threw a lot of information at you guys, and I understand it can be very overwhelming at first. So I can't stress enough, guys. Always feel free to refer back to us with any questions you have at any given time. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So with that being said, let's open up the floor for some Q&A. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. We gave you all the information you could ever need. All right.
I'll ask you a question.
All right, go ahead.
Fine. With multiple offers and today's market, you touched on it a little bit. I know in the past we've worked on making sure that the offer letter is or the pre-approval letter matches the offer letter. What other items are you going to try and help your client with to kind of position them to get the offer accepted?
So like more recently, to have our offer accepted, it sounds silly, but sometimes just as simple as writing a heartfelt letter and helping the seller understand like you and your family and how much you love the home and how much you're going to continue to take care of it, especially for maybe a seller who has raised their own family there, and sharing your story makes them want you to have the house. I had a family a few months back that they were not the highest offer price, but they had a very similar family situation, and the sellers, just from reading their letter and seeing their photo, chose them. And I cried and they cried, and it was this beautiful moment. And they moved into the house a couple months ago, and they love it. So things like that. Other things like, especially in this market where it is very crazy, and a lot of times when people are selling their home, they're trying to buy another one. And it can be very stressful to try to do 2 sales at the same time. So things like being flexible on closing dates. Obviously when you buy a house, wanting to close on it as quickly as possible is ideal, and move in there. But some people might want to, say, I want to rent this property. You can buy it, but I want to rent it back from you and still live here till I can find my next house. Or I want you to be flexible on closing date until I can find my next place. And if you're just renting now, that might be work for you. So things like that can, always be good. And then a lot of times, and unfortunately, and I really hate having my first time home buyers do it, but waiving home inspections like happens all the time now. and it's really, I hate doing it, but you can also choose to do something like home inspection for informational purposes only. And reason why that's appealing to a seller is because then nothing can pop up and they don't have to worry about it. And they don't have to worry about the sale falling through and having to go back on market if something little pop up at a home inspection, or someone just gets scared at a home inspection. So all things like that, and then some more, can definitely be useful in the negotiation process, and not just, you know, the money.
So I saw a question from Annalise in the chat room. So thank you for that question. So I'll just read the question so everyone can see it. Can we go back to pre-approval? I'm a 26-year-old, completely paid student loans, decent credit score, don't really use the credit card much, but always pay it off on time, etc. What can make me an attractive loanee? What can make me a risk to the lender? With credit scores are always going to be kind of one of the key drivers. Your job history, if you have a 2-year history, and steady income, and no bankruptcies, no major issues on your credit, then it's going to be pretty easy to get you set up. Then it's going to come down to how much money do you have in the bank for your down payment? Does that get you to the program that you want to qualify? And then Annalise followed up with another great question about how many months in advance. I would say I want to talk to somebody at least 2 months in advance of when you think you're going to be buying, and preferably 3 or 4. We can have an initial conversation, and I can, even without pulling your credit, can kind of get a sense of, where you're at. If you have concerns, then we may want to pull the credit, see what your score is. And then, we can always get into the credit tool people if there's major things that need to be fixed. I know, the minor stuff very well. A lot of times you may have an authorized user account with your parents' credit card on there, and they have a $10,000 balance, which is not a big thing for them, but for you to show a $10,000 balance might be actually hurting things. That would be, I don't think there's ever too soon to get involved in the process. And Nicole, I think you'd agree with that, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I can't stress enough. Like I have people who, especially because just inventory is so low right now. Obviously, spring market is coming, so it's usually more stuff comes on market starting March and then continues through the summer. But with only a few houses coming up here and there, like it could take people months to a year to find the right property for them, depending on how picky they are. Get it as early on as you can, because I've also had people who the first house they look at, they buy. So it's not common, but it does happen. So I just don't want you to go into searching for homes if you're not fully prepared, because that house, the one, could pop up at any moment. So, and you want to be able to jump on it.
Thank you, guys.
And I'm Deborah Nura asked a question about rental. I mentioned a 2-year housing history. I think this is the question she's asking, but if you're in a rental and maybe think of buying, will it hurt you if you're only in leasing for a 15-month lease versus 24 months? When I say a 2-year history, because you're not in the same property for 2 years as a rental, it isn't going to be an issue. We're going to want to just see at least that 2-year history. So if you're in one place for 15 months, but then you were in another place for 4 years prior to that, or 2 years prior to that, that's going to be fine. We're going to do what's called a verification of rental sometimes. And as long as your landlord say you pay on time, then we're going to be fine. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions, guys? Don't hesitate to ask. All right. Cool. Well, at this point, thank you guys all so much for joining. We're going to try to make this a more regular thing every couple months or so. So if you have friends that wanted to join that didn't get to, feel free to send them our way. If you are not already someone who's working with me as one of my clients, I will be sending out not only these slides, but all of our information afterwards. And I would love to get in touch with you and become a little more acquainted and understand, what you're looking for and when you're thinking of doing it. So I look forward to meeting you guys all a little more closely. And thank you so much, Christine and Steve, for joining.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
And again, thanks for all joining, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
You
Have a
too.
nice-
Bye, everybody.